In today's review, we're checking out a new frame for a DJI O3 build. What's up, my friends? Welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. Today on the bench, I have the Speedybee Master. It is a brand new carbon frame for anyone that wants to build an O3 setup for a DJI 4K drone with 1080p. We have talked about this frame before in live streams, and I haven't done a review on it yet and shown you what's in the box. So today we're going to take this out of the box. We're going to show you all the parts and pieces that go along with this frame. Once we get it built up, we're going to give you kind of an overview and kind of what I think and opinion about this particular frame versus some of the other ones out there. Speedybee was kind enough to send us this frame, and I'm hoping that once I get this built up and tested that, well, it's going to be a frame that doesn't give us a whole bunch of jello in the DJI O3. Now, one thing that iFlight has released recently as well, you guys should know about, they released some new silicone camera mounts that go on the side of a lot of these carbon frames that iFlight makes, and that's super, super nice. But I don't think they will fit on this frame or work on this frame. So we're going to see how this tests out once we get this built. But let's go ahead and get all the parts on the bench out of the box here. We have quite a few parts and pieces, pretty much everything you need to build this frame up and get it ready for a flight controller and your DJI O3 system. So let's go ahead and get started with the first part of the assembly. Let me show you how this goes together. So when you're building up any frame, the best thing to do is go ahead and lay all the parts down. When we're doing the frame and the bottom assembly, that's what I want to focus on first. So I grabbed the center of the frame stack part. This is kind of a silicone piece for dampening for your flight controller and ESCs, which is super nice. So go ahead and grab your M3 driver. If you're kind of following along with this video, I feel like the directions on the website, they're okay. They're really nicely made, but I like just a standard schematic better myself. Now these arms, when they go together, they have a tab on the top and the bottom. And so far I feel like, since this is a review, so far the frame, it's not super complicated to build. Now that I have these two screws in, this is going to make it easier for grabbing my standoffs and making sure that I have the right standoffs here and here on the frame, and then we're going to work our way back. And we're going to have 4 standoffs here. Go ahead and grab those M312 screws. They already actually have a little Loctite on them here, so that's kind of nice. It should seat nicely. Now I'm going to take this standoff, do it by hand there, tighten that down to the frame. We get our first standoff on, and you can go ahead and work on the next one. Now the other 2 parts that we have here, hardware parts, are M3 24mm. Those are for the stacks, and it's nice they have things labeled here. It says screws for stacks, and this says the nut for the stack right here. They're kind of anodized purple aluminum. 2 more standoffs here, and we've pretty much got our frame together. Okay, so now we have everything on there for the center frame assembly. Just go ahead and give everything a quick spin around and make sure you tighten all these bolts right here. Just give them a good snug tighten, don't over tighten. Now we'll move on to the rear assembly. Now this is your rear assembly. What you're going to do is grab the standard standoff and start with the first side plate right here. This is all TPU printed, and this is to hold your GPS module in place if you decide to use GPS on the Master HD, and this is the piece for your DJI O3 antenna. Now this goes on the very back of the frame, and right now you need to grab, that's looking pretty good right there. I'm just going to lightly screw that down. And this is pretty much the tail assembly. So now we just have to do the front camera assembly and the top plate. And we're pretty far along on our build for our Master HD at this point. So now you're ready to go ahead and put your camera assembly on the front of the quad. So just take your time when you're doing your builds. And a big tip for guys that are building as well is to work on a towel. Put a towel down on your surface, your build surface. That way if you have a screw bounce or fall out, it doesn't fall off your bench and be lost forever. Now you're going to use these 2 M2 5mm bolts here for the side plates here, and now I'm going to go ahead and put these M3 bolts on this side and the other side plate on, and we're just about ready to put this on the front of the frame. So now that your camera assembly is together top to bottom here, we're going to go ahead and take an M3 5mm bolt, and we're just going to drive it down into the aluminum. Again, use blue Loctite on this so it doesn't vibrate free. and we're gonna talk about this frame once it's all built up too. I have my skepticism about most things that come out. If you guys watch the channel, I'm pretty skeptical about most stuff until I've actually tested it. And a lot of times I kind of give you my intuition on what I think is gonna happen. And we've talked about this front assembly already in one of our live streams. I'm not a particular fan of this front end on this quad, and I'm kind of explain why here in a second. But here's the top plate. We're finally pretty much to the point where this quad is starting to look pretty good. Now, overall, I love the carbon fiber quality. I think the carbon fiber on here looks super nice. If you look at this frame really close, it's nicely polished. They have beveled bolt insets right there, which is super nice. And it has a very nice long body frame design for a pretty large battery. And they've got their logo there. They have all the nice TPU trimmings, and even a silicone dampener here for the flight control. I think is super sweet. My only criticism of this frame so far is that I'm kind of wondering what's going to happen once we start crashing this frame, which is inevitably going to happen. We have a two-part separation up here for this camera system, and I think during Joshua Bardwell's live stream, I kind of called this the bird beak design up here because there's so much open carbon right here between this front end, and I really thought that Speedybee should have added a grommet right here, and there's not going to be one. It has sort of an extended nose out here, but they did say on their website that they made the arms wider across so that your props aren't in view. And it's kind of a squashed X design, but this sort of front end right here, it just looks like to me that it's kind of gonna have kind of a crumple zone in here. Somewhere around here will be the stress point because there is no extra standoff here, and it seems with this front end assembly, the way they've designed it, that they've tried to extend it out but still keep some reinforcement here with this bar here and up through here. Now, time's going to tell. If you already have this frame and you're already flying it, please do make a comment on this video about how tough the front end is, because I do love the way it looks, but that's my only criticism of this entire frame. How is this going to hold up for us once we start to crash this frame? Now, I'm going to go ahead and install the rest of the bolts real quick, and we'll kind of give some final thoughts on the Speedybee Master HD edition. So, okay guys, we're at pretty much the end of this assembly, and let's talk about a few things here. Assembly wasn't that hard. It's not going to be a hard frame for you to build. Is this the best HD frame out there for the O3 unit? Probably not. Do I think it's a good quality engineering? I do. Do I think that the carbon is decent looking? I do. I also like the fact that it came with some CNC'd heat sink for the back here where your O3 is going to sit, because that's going to be super important once summer rolls around. And I like that it has a squash X with a dampener here for isolation vibration. I love that for the flight controller. I haven't seen that a lot, and that's a really nice addition to this frame. They also give you hardware for the flight controller and longer screws with some anodized nuts in there as well, which I think is super nice. And I like the recessed XT60 here, the custom mount in the back that's TPU printed for your GPS setup with a hole through there to run your wire straight up to your flight controller, to your SDL and SCL setup. But I just feel like there may be better frames out there, and I'll try to put a list down below in the video description for an O3 frame build. I feel like Speedybee is on the right track with this frame, but I don't like the front end. That bothers me, but I haven't tested it, so I can't really give you 100% correct opinion about this. But a lot of times when I have been skeptical about things in the past, they've come true. So my big thing is that we talked about it before in this video, and I felt like there's a crumple point right around here, and I feel like this bottom plate may break. Now, if we had to pull this apart, we could take this bottom plate slam off, and you can put a new bottom plate on there if you broke it. You're not going to break these aluminum mounts in the front, and this is a separate piece here, so they are kind of in line with the fact that, yeah, this may break and you're going to have to get a new bottom plate. But this looks like it's going to be around 3 mil on the bottom. So let's just test the arms real quick and zero this out. And the arms are around 5 mil here. This bottom plate looks to be, wow, it's only 2.5 mil on the bottom plate. Okay, so we got 2.5 mil there, and for the top plate really does look like it's probably, I'm gonna guess, around 3 mil, but it looks like we're at 2.5 mil on the top plate as well. So it is a fairly light frame. It doesn't feel like a huge, heavy BQE freestyle bando basher frame. So you know, maybe this one's more for a range, like a medium range cruiser, than a freestyle drone. But it does have sort of some freestyle type of drone characteristics. But I would say this one's really more built for a cruising with GPS on board. So I wouldn't really make this frame a freestyle quad. So if you're looking to get a nice frame for, you know, just cruising and mild crashes, you could probably get away with using this frame for an O3 like range and filming unit. But otherwise, freestyle wise, I would probably stay away from this one. But I do like that they have so many additional accessories that come along with it. The box was nice, and it was a nice presentation. So you can check out the link down below if you decide to get one. Use my link, and that will benefit the channel. If you want to and you love the information on the channel, the honest reviews, please buy me a cup of coffee or become a Patreon, and definitely join our Discord, guys, because our Discord is popping. I'm Justin Davis. Take care, my homies, and I will see you on the next one.